want to first introduce, this is a family. I mentioned this is Kevin Goodwin. They're married. They have different surnames, but they've been married for a while and living on the streets. But they're working with us and living at our shelter now. And so without further ado, let's give a big hand clap for Kevin.
Hello, my name is Kevin Goodwin. I'm 48 years old. I need to say, 30 years out of 48, it was just one big trip down the road of destruction.
You can hold it.
All right. For the first time in my life, in my adult life, I finally felt like someone. I felt like my life was meaningful. I feel like my life is meaningful today. For all those years in my addiction, I felt worthless and full of a lot of self-pity. I started down my previous road of destruction when I was in high school. I started weed and alcohol, and then progressed from there to cocaine and then crack. I was very naive about my drug use. I was sure that I wasn't hurting anyone else. I really didn't even realize I was hurting myself. I never gave it a second thought. During this time, I had a daughter. When she was 2, her mother left me due to my addiction. I continued from that point to tell my daughter lies about quitting and getting my life together. I'm worried that I've lost her forever and have overwhelming guilt for this. In 1996, I began my CDC career in half the prisons in California. For those of you who don't know what CDC is, it's California Department of Correction. In this case, it's not the Center of Disease Control. This career lasted about 12 years. While I was doing my last term, my mother passed away. And I took it real hard. She come to see me to say goodbye. She was dying of cancer. I was her baby, and she was always there for me no matter what I did. I now have a huge hole in my life, and then I met Kendra, my wife. It started as a long-distance relationship because she lived in Stockton and I lived in Riverside. I come to visit her and stayed a few days, and when I tried to return home, my father had run away. He sold his house and left without telling anyone in the family where he was going. I felt like, due to my addiction, I had become such a burden that he had left because of me. I still didn't get it. I still didn't realize it was time for a change. Kendra, I, and the kids all finally moved to Riverside for about the next 5 years. We were in our happy little addiction, and things seemed to be going well. We're a functional drug addict. We then started heading downhill quickly. We started spending all our money on dope and finally lost our home. I managed to steal a house for my family to live in. I found a foreclosed house for sale, cut the lockbox off, and said, I got us a house, let's move in. We just kept going downhill from there. We moved a couple of times starting over. There were some good times that always ended up the same. Drugs and alcohol and homeless. We were staying at Kendra's mom's house, and we became a burden and had to leave. This is when we came to the Salvation Army as overnighters. We went in and out and finally wandered around Lodi until we hit rock bottom. When there was no place lower to go, I finally felt the need to make a change for the first time in my life. I started asking about the program. got the drugs out of my system so I could get in and entered a free program on October 6, 2013. Around the same time, my wife, Kendra, needed to make changes to satisfy some court requirements. God called us to change our lives both at the same time. From that point, we both went to program and made it through. I had to strive to make it through program for myself and my family. The way I had been doing things previously was not working at all. I found myself doing very well and began to enjoy the clean and sober life and hate the previous path to destruction that I had been on. I graduated the program with only one write-up, came back to Hope Harbor. I waited anxiously for my family's return, very excited about our new life together. Because of the skills and knowledge that the Salvation Army program has helped me learn, like getting up in the morning, being on time, doing what is expected of me, and just basically being responsible. I became employable and had a full-time job. My probation officer let me off 5 years probation early. I also have my family back and I'm learning how to be a better father and other things than I was before. We love going to church at the core, the programs at the core have been a huge part of my family's recovery. I know that God brought us to the Salvation Army so they could help me find Him, so He can make the changes in me and my family's life. My plan is to keep doing the right thing, provide for my family, keep them in the home, keep being responsible, keep heading down the right path. Thanks to all of you in our community that show how much you care and support the Salvation Army. My family is on the path to success. Thank you all.
Probably have to stand up and give another standing ovation. You know, with every husband, there's a wife. And so her story is equally compelling and equally triumphant. So let's give Kendra a hand clap.
My name is Kendra. My story starts in 2004. At the end of my relationship with my children's father, I was left emotionally wounded. I still struggle with those wounds. That same year, I began a relationship with my husband, Kevin. That is when I started using drugs. For a few years, life seemed perfect, but in 2008, we found ourselves homeless. We moved to Texas so my dad could help us out. Things were looking up, and we started feeling like a real family again. We started doing things with the kids we hadn't done in our addiction. We both had jobs and life was good. It was one of the best times in our family's life because we had stopped doing drugs. Unfortunately, I chose to start drinking and my husband followed suit. Pretty soon, I was drinking every day and sinking back into a dangerous addiction. In 2009, we moved back to California. Between 2009 and 2013, we were homeless off and on, never staying in a home for longer than 18 months. We moved 4 times in 4 years and went in and out of shelters. During this time, I was using drugs, and when I wasn't on drugs, I was drinking, never allowing myself to have a clear mind. At this time in my life, anger, violence, and bitterness consumed me. This ultimately led me to feeling worthless and hopeless. I wasn't living anymore, only existing. In 2013, while in jail for assaulting my husband, I realized that if I did not change my out-of-control behavior, I would end up in prison or worse. That is when I prayed to God to show me the right path for change. In September of 2013, I went to Hope Harbor and asked for help. 5 months later, after working closely with the case manager to prepare myself and my children, I went to the Depot Family Crisis Center in Marysville. This is a Salvation Army rehabilitation center for families. While there, I learned to face my problems and fears head on. My children and I graduated the program in August of 2014. Since returning to Hope Harbor, I have been blessed with a scholarship for classes to learn how to become a certified tax preparer. I have accepted the Lord as my Savior. I now see life through new eyes. I am more patient, more tolerant, and more optimistic. I feel more at peace than I ever have. The Lord's love shines through the Salvation Army. Psalms chapter 40, verse 2 says, He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. This verse represents my family's life because this is what God has done for us through the Salvation Army. Without the Salvation Army's many programs, my family would be in the same desperate, hopeless position we have been in for so long. Some of the programs that have helped my family to become more stable are the tutoring and mentoring programs, the Troops program, the dinner program, Bible study, church services, and Celebrate Recovery. Through the tutoring and mentoring program, my children's grades have remained high, even though they are in transition. The Troops programs have helped them dramatically with their social skills and their self-confidence. Even before I came into the shelter, the dinner program fed my family when I couldn't. The spiritual programs have helped me to continue to grow and blossom into a woman of God. I would like to thank the Salvation Army staff and the many generous donors in the community whom, without their contributions, this change would not have been possible for my family or so many others who are struggling in the community.